Good morning and welcome to the CRTPO Technical Coordinating Committee on March 7th, 2024. The time is now 10:01. We'll begin with introductions at the table, starting to my left, and then we'll go with introductions in the audience, starting on the left-hand side of the room.
Tracy Howe, pedestrian focus.
Megan Green, Mecklenburg County Air Quality.
Sherry Ashley, City of Statesville.
Eric Martin, Town of Morrisville.
Vaughn Hanson, Village of Wesley Chapel.
Aaron Tucker, Town of Cornelius.
Todd Huntsanger, Indian Trail.
Rich Hoffman, Iredell County.
Matthew Ray, Union County.
Lisa Stywinner, City of Monroe.
James Kelly, Town of Waxhaw.
Andrew Ventresca, Town of Troutman. Travis Johnson, CRTPO.
Liz Babson, City of Charlotte.
Candace Rory, Charlotte Planning.
Brian Horton, Katz, MTC Rep.
Irene Ivy, Mecklenburg County Public Health.
Anita Paniker, NCDOT Division 12.
Travis Morgan, Town of Pineville.
Gwen Cook, Greenway Focus Area.
Dave Campbell, Bicycle Focus Area.
Andrew Golden, Town of Davidson.
Mackenzie Nowacki, Charlotte General Services.
Dana Suchenki, Town of Matthews.
Sean Epperson, NCDOT Division 10.
Steve Fry, Town of Mint Hill.
Bob Cook, CRTPO. Neil Burke, CRTPO.
Martin Kennedy, CDOT.
Will Washington, Town of Mooresville. NCDOT. Mark Cooksey, Turnpike Authority. Scott Miller, NCDOT. Jason Burdette, Town of Davidson. David Heath, Town of Huntersville.
Alex McIntyre, Kinley-Horn.
Justin Carroll, CDOT. David Falconer, Town.
Gorilla Litter, CRTPO.
Dimitri Day, CRTPO.
CRTPO.
Will Snyder, CRTPO.
Good morning and welcome again. Our first item is to adopt today's agenda. May I have a motion?
I missed that.
Erica Sherry.
Erica Sherry, thank you. Sorry. Brief moment.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Next item is to adopt today's consent agenda. We have the approval of the February 1st, 2024 TCC minutes and the FY 2024 CRTPO self-certification. May I have a motion for that action? And a second? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? That carries unanimously. We have one business item today, and we'll hear from Bob Cook on the FY 2025 UPWP.
Morning, everyone. This will be the last time you hear about the UPWP for a little while, so I know you're happy about that. So we do have action today. We've updated you several times. The November meeting canceled January, of course, or December, of course, January, February meeting. So we're coming to you for a recommendation to the board to for them to recommend approval of the FY 25 Unified Planning Work Program. A lot of this information you've seen before. We went over this, by the way, for those of you who were able to participate in last week's transportation staff meeting. Much of the same information that went to the board at its February meeting. The funding has remained the same, no changes there. Pretty much everything has. Maybe I need to. Is that a little bit better? Okay, thank you. Pretty much everything has stayed the same since we last got together. The issue, I think we talked about this at least at the staff meeting in terms of the FY 2025 takedown of STB GDA money. This was recommended by us because our PL funds were reduced from the current fiscal year. And we had a conversation with NCDOT's Transportation Planning Division, and they explained some of the details about what happened this time around that we did not realize, I think perhaps at the last TCC meeting. But for those of you who are unfamiliar with how we get some of our funding, we get PL funds based upon two components. One is a formula-based component. And then the other component is a redistribution of unused funds from other MPOs throughout North Carolina. And for the first time, since the redistribution has been in place, those funds are not available because other MPOs still haven't closed the books on those previous year's PL funds. So again, for the first time, those dollars aren't available. But in conversation with DOT, the Transportation Planning Division specifically, they're confident that that won't be the case next year. So this isn't some sort of permanent problem for the next 10 years that we might be dealing with as an organization. And so our recommendation is to draw down an additional $276,200 in DA funds to bring the PL funds total up to the current fiscal year. And we are programming the same amount for CRTPO activities with both PL funds, planning funds, and STBG DA funds as our program the current fiscal year. So no increase. So these are the allocations. These were all in your agenda packet, by the way, of course. You can see their consistency between fiscal year 24 and the upcoming fiscal year. Some minor differences there. But then when you get down to the total is the same for all the CRTPO activities, despite some adjustments within individual task codes. Section 5303 has remained the same. Again, as we've mentioned several times, all the requests for the current fiscal year we've been able to honor those. And we'll be using some 5303 money for complete streets activities. That is required as a part of the IIJA. Good news on that front. Again, there is no local match for those dollars. So we are going to be updating our complete streets policy and be coordinating with all of you in so doing. We have the carryover projects, I'm sorry, these are the new local planning projects. These were endorsed by the board at its February meeting. Central Iowa Regional Council, the Metro Iowa Regional Model Team in Union County. These were again all approved by the board. Will be incorporated into the UPWP. These are the carryover projects from previous fiscal years. The SEAM project covering a number of jurisdictions. The Transportation Master Plan in Indian Trail, the John Street project in Matthews. Mooresville's mobility plan and the Silver Line integration plan that is being conducted by the town of Stallings. And then there was also the non-CRTPO initiatives that we're incorporating into the work program, even though we don't work on those projects as an organization because they're funded with either state or federal dollars for transportation, they have to be incorporated into our document. So we'll do that. And so there are just a few next steps, document formatting. We'll be requesting board adoption on the 20th of this month, and then we'll submit the UPWP to NCDOT and the Federal Transit Administration. So again, our action is to recommend that the board approve the FY25 UPWP. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Erica?
I just have a comment. I'm very glad to hear that this is not going to be an ongoing issue. I think what was really missing from this process was an opportunity of how that gap could have been eliminated. You know, everybody has to take 10% off their plans, or we're going to reduce public engagement by this amount. But I do appreciate the work to make sure this doesn't happen next year. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments? All right, with that, I'd like to have a motion to recommend that the CRTPO board approve the FY 2025 Unified Planning Work Program.
I'll do it. Sherry Ashley, so moved.
In a second,
Candace second.
any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay, we have 3 information reports. Our first is going to be a Beyond 77 update from Paul Benton.
All right, good morning, TCC members. My name is Paul Benton. For those of you I haven't met, I'm the Senior Transportation and Planning Engineer at CRTPO. I wanted to come to you this morning with a brief update on the Beyond 77 program and to let you know about some of the ongoing and upcoming work for this program here. This morning, I'll highlight the 3 topics here on the screen, give a quick recap of the program for those who aren't familiar, then an update on some of the important transit focus recommendations that we're working towards implementation and working to advance. And then finally, I'll look ahead at some of the upcoming actions that we'll be sharing over the next few months. So for those who aren't familiar with Beyond 77, this is a corridor study along the I-77 corridor between Statesville and the state line. So the focus area was a 3-mile swath surrounding I-77 in this area. And the emphasis of the document was really on connectivity and alternative transportation options rather than I-77 mainline improvements itself. So that said, many of the recommendations are focused on policies and programs and strategies that improve mobility and access in this area, rather than a focus list of specific capital projects that would be built in the future. So we've been, one of the major efforts that staff has been working on is working through the plan's 286 recommended strategies and solutions to undertake some of those with partners to organize them and prepare for implementation. So finally, the plan here was implemented over about 3 years. So it was initiated in 2019 and adopted by the CRTPO board in 2022. So the next topic here is transit recommendations from that plan and an update on implementation there. So we're moving into some of those 286 strategies and solutions that were produced by the plan. We wanted to provide a quick update on those that have a focus on transit in particular. So 9 of those recommendations in Beyond 77 have a strong transit focus and on the service and improvements to transit in our region. And then numerous more were identified through Connect Beyond's plan. So some examples of those are improvements to transit mapping, seamless fare purchasing, that kind of thing in our region. So we're currently working to onboard a consultant to assist us with the process of analyzing and implementing those specific recommendations focused on transit. And that work will identify overlapping and complementary efforts between our plans and then assist us with the ranking and implementation plans for each of those elements. So this is work that really leverages the work of our partners at Centralina and other transit providers in the region, and then our newly formed transit providers work group and more. So we're excited to move this work forward, and we'll have more updates for you as our consultant gets underway and our work begins there. And then finally, I've got just a quick look ahead at some of the upcoming activities over the following months. So staff are currently reviewing the final draft of the Beyond 77 Alternative Funding Report. We'll have additional information on that to share in April. This is a report that was prepared by our consultants at RSNH, and it outlines sort of the funding possibilities in our region for immediate midterm revenue sources that could potentially be leveraged to increase transportation funding in our region. Those would be applicable both to Beyond 77 corridor and the broader region. And so this document will provide additional information on potential revenue generation for a number of different strategies, legislative action that would be required for implementation and more. So again, we'll come back to the TCC and the board next month to share an update on that document and hopefully have the final version on our website here shortly. And then finally, the Beyond 77 Coalition will be a topic that will be coming back in May to discuss in more detail. We've had additional engagement with our focus group, who's been providing advice on what that coalition would work for or look like. Some of the mechanics of how that would work, focused around the charter structure and administration of that coalition. And the focus of that group would be again to identify the priority implementation of the Beyond 77 plan, the kind of top recommendations from that plan, and then to investigate additional transportation alternative funding sources. Any questions?
questions for Paul? All right, thank you. Next, we'll have an update on the CRTPO strategic plan, and we'll hear from Will Snyder.
Hi, folks. Let me get forward here. My name's Will Snyder. I'm CRTPO's associate planner. So first presentation at TCC, which is exciting. So I probably have met some of you, but certainly my first time seeing a lot of you. So let's get going here. So I'm going to be updating you on the strategic plan. This was a plan that the CRTPO board adopted in November of 2021. With any strategic plan, along with the goals and initiatives of it, we adopted a mission statement and vision statement you can see on the screen. So that is the CRTPO provides leadership and collaboration with member communities and partners in developing our region's transportation system with a vision statement of a connected and equitable transportation system that provides mobility choices for the region. Some of the goals within that plan. Goal 1 is to lead on regional mobility issues. And some of the activities that we completed under this are presentations at the 2023 Transportation Research Board Conference and the 2023 NACAMPO Annual Conference, as well as the 2024 board orientation that we held earlier this year, which was a really fantastic session. We heard a lot of really great feedback from our board on how well that program went. So we were really pleased with that. Upcoming activities within Goal 1 are our Linking Transit and Land Use training series, which taking place today after TCC here. We have regional safety planning taking place with a lot of IIJA money that I'll be talking about in a little bit, as well as our AMPO planning tools and training symposium hosted by AMPO in Albuquerque, New Mexico this year. So myself and Paul will have an opportunity to attend that to get a little bit more understanding of some of the work of MPOs. Goal 2 is to proactively engage the public to increase awareness of regional transportation issues. So within that, we've held quarterly communication meetings for our member jurisdiction PIOs. And then we've also recently applied to RAISE, which is a very large competitive program hosted by USDOT. We just submitted that application last Tuesday, so we're super pleased and awaiting response on that. But we've done a lot of public pre-application public engagement related to that application to give folks a heads up that we're applying, and certainly hoping to win that program. Upcoming will be our 2055 MTP public input. So certainly going to be a big undertaking for our staff and our consultant with that. P7.0 local input points, Beyond 77 collaboration with long ranges community area plan efforts, and then updating our Title VI and limited English proficiency plans. Next, we have Goal 3, which is fostering a culture of collaboration with partners. So we've held our joint MPO roundtable, which was another really successful event that just took place last week. Our Beyond 77 task force, Connect Beyond advancing the plan, and joint efforts with Central Lina. Upcoming within this is the Beyond 77 Coalition, and again, some IIJA grant opportunities, which I'll talk a little bit about with our funding goal. Goal 4 is encouraging members' participation in our planning and decision-making processes. And so we've held 9 101 presentations for member jurisdictions and partners. Some upcoming activities within that are some potential education session topics, which include a discretionary program session, discussion on active transportation, and then scenario planning kind of within the resilience space there. Goal 5 is continuously improving our internal operations. And so within this one, we have monthly staff coordination meetings and our annual report integration that's taken place. And then upcoming, we have some organizational efficiency improvements, evaluation of committees and working groups, and then a phase 2 staffing and resources study. Want to specifically say with the evaluation of committees and working groups that the project oversight committee will be one of the first committees that are reviewed to evaluate its effectiveness almost 10 years since it's been established. And so the kind of organizational efficiency improvement examples within that include compiling our staffing commitments to understand some of the workloads and redundancies within that, reviewing communications practices with the amount of different working groups and committees that staff are participating on. So really making sure that we're maximizing our staff resources internally. Then finally, goal 6 is expanding regional transportation funding. Again, really focusing on IIJA. I'm using this acronym. It's the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, also pretty commonly known as BILL. So the kind of general education around IIJA, these are some really fantastic opportunities for alternative funding in our region. And so we're going pretty far in on that, again, with our RAISE application as well. And then again, the Joint MPO Roundtable was a really fantastic event. Upcoming activities are the Beyond 77 Alternative Funding Report that Paul just updated you all on, and the grants resource page that we'll be developing to keep our jurisdictions updated on alternative funding we're looking at. That I will close with questions, and probably will preface that I'll have to forward some to Brian if there's some that I can't answer, but yeah, any questions?
Thank you, Will.
Yeah.
Any questions? Erica?
When will P 7.0 kick off?
So, we anticipate.
Yeah, at the mic.
NCDOT is currently finalizing the quantitative scores for P 7.0, and we anticipate receiving those in late May. And then we will start the regional impact local input point assignment in June. That'll be a 2-month window. We'll have to do public engagement, bring those point assignments before the TCC and the board, and then the same thing with the division needs point assignment. That will be later on this year. I believe beginning in August and concluding in November.
Thank you. And this presentation was very helpful. I'd love to get a copy of it.
Sure.
Is there an update to the energy progress information that presented at the roundtable? As far as the next steps, is anybody discussing that?
I think what we're doing is we're kind of meeting CRTPO, GCL, MPO, and the Central Line Regional Council. We're debriefing, understanding what the outcomes were within those table assignments, and then we'll be in communication with not only the participants, but just our member jurisdictions and GCL about how to move forward after that.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Neil. Next, we'll hear from Bob Cook on the transfer of planning responsibilities memorandum of agreement.
Morning again. Hopefully, we could dispense with this rather quickly, not today, but still rather quickly. So I do want to talk a little, you did have an example of one of the agreements in your agenda packet. That was one with the GCL MPO. So you can take a look at that as perhaps I go through this presentation. So I want to talk about why the agreements are needed, give you a little bit of background, talk about what the agreements actually do, and then also talk about our staff recommendation, give you a status and schedule, and then of course take any questions about this topic. So first, about why the agreements are needed. I guess it was around fall of last year, I think we conducted, and maybe it may have been before that, we conducted a presentation about the results of the 2020 census. Finally got urban area information rather late this time around. And if you recall, the Charlotte urban area contracted substantially due to changes in the way the Census Bureau defines an urban area. Our population still went up substantially, but the actual geographic footprint of the Charlotte urban area was reduced substantially. And what happened with that, and it happened in previous years and previous urban area designations, our urban area, or rather our planning areas, oftentimes amongst the 4 MPOs in the region, and our urban areas overlap. And on the map on the right-hand side of the screen there, you can see the 4 MPOs in the region, the urban areas associated with those MPOs, and then there are those yellow areas. That's where the overlaps occur. So the Charlotte urban area extends into Rock Hill, into York County, and into the Rock Hill Fort Mill area transportation study planning area. Much less of a footprint than in previous iterations of urban areas. No longer in the panhandle of Lancaster County, also areas around Fort Mill and TKK, just one of the things that resulted from the change in which by which the Census Bureau designates urban areas. The Charlotte urban area also extends into the Gaston, Cleveland, Lincoln MPO planning area up around Mountain Island. The Gastonia urban area now extends into Mecklenburg County around the Whitewater Center. And then the Concord urban area, you can see that on the right where that red area is, now extends into Mecklenburg County. It used to be the other way around. But because of the changes, it's now the Concord urban area coming into Mecklenburg County. And so as sometimes you'll hear us talk about the Code of Federal Regulations, that's what governs what we do as an organization. And there is a part of the Code of Federal Regulations that talks about the need for written agreements when these overlaps occur to make sure that the planning responsibilities of any MPO are properly implemented despite the difference between an urban area and a metropolitan planning area. And the future action that's going to be necessary is to execute those agreements. And so what they do is the most fundamental thing is they transfer the planning responsibilities from one NPO to the other. And then a little bit more specifically, and you can see this in the example agreement in the agenda packet, they will describe how the planning process is conducted, talks about the allocation and distribution of transportation planning funds, both for transit planning and non-transit planning, for FHWA money, FTA money. It confirms coordination of data collection activities. That's a lot of work associated with the Metrolina regional model. And then lastly, there's an air quality component related to the state implementation plan. So those are really the fundamentals of the agreement and what they call out. And so our recommendation is to move forward and execute those agreements with the neighboring MPOs. So we'll be transferring the planning area responsibilities for a portion of our urban area to RFATS, the Rock Hill Fort Mill Area Transportation Study, and the Gaston, Cleveland, Lincoln MPO, and then transfer planning area responsibilities for those portions of the Gastonia and Concord urban areas to CRTPO. And then this would be consistent with past practices. I think this is probably the third time we've had to do this as an organization following the two. I don't think it happened after the 1990 census, but it did after 2000 and 2010. And we entered into agreements at that point as well. In terms of status, I think we're set with Cabarrus, Rowan, and Gaston, Cleveland, Lincoln. And I think we're ready for April adoption. And before we go today, I'd like to get your thoughts on putting this on the consent agenda for next month. Rock Hill Fort Mill is a little different. There are some transit planning funding issues that I think we still have to resolve there. Crossing a state line complicates things a little bit. So I think the May meeting is the more likely opportunity for us to come back to you on a consent agenda if you prefer and get action for the Rock Hill Fort Mill MPO. So that's the schedule at this point is and I know we raised this, I think yesterday at the staff meeting. Are folks comfortable with putting these agreements on the consent agenda next month? I see some head nods. Anybody opposed? I think we got, I'll take that as consensus. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. This is kind of just a kind of a bureaucratic process, I realize, but it is something that we are obligated to go through, and we will need a recommendation from this body to the board, but happy to answer any questions you might have.
Go ahead.
Hey, Bob, I got a really technical question for you.
Okay.
I noticed as preface to my question, I work with the Triad MPOs as well, and I discovered last year that Davidson County technically is in the Winston-Salem urbanized area. However, they wanted to be part of the High Point planning boundary. And I discovered that those areas that are within the Winston-Salem urbanized area can still apply for discretionary funds from the Winston-Salem MPO, even though they are in the High Point planning boundary. And so I'm curious to know if that is technically possible with the areas that the areas of CRTPO that encroach into other MPO boundaries, and Cabarrus-Rowan, same thing, if they can technically, if part of Mecklenburg County could technically apply for discretionary funding from the Cabarrus-Rowan MPO.
Our discretionary policy guide states that member jurisdictions, CRTPO member jurisdictions are the entities eligible to apply for funding. So that would negate the possibility of these other communities applying for funding. Now, if the FHWA said overrules that, then I guess technically they would be eligible to apply. And so in terms of the example you provided, was that a situation where the feds said, oh no, they're eligible? Did the feds weigh in on that?
I don't know if they take advantage
Okay.
of that discretionary fund, but just the discovery that they could do that kind of blew my mind, because they're technically in one MPO but could apply for funds from a different MPO. And I yeah, it was quite
Yeah.
a discovery.
And I don't think from a practical standpoint, we'd have to use the money within our, I think within our planning area. I think nobody would object to that. I can't imagine, probably rue those words, but I can't imagine why say the Gaston, Cleveland, Lincoln MPO would want to apply for DA dollars for a project in Mecklenburg County, and they would have to manage that project in Mecklenburg County in another MPO's planning area. I think it would look, they'd have to provide the match. Somebody would have to provide the match.
Yep.
And I can't imagine anyone wanting to do that, any entity over there wanting to do that for a project in Mecklenburg County.
Okay.
So
Well,
I
thank
think
you.
technically, maybe the FHWA might come back and say, oh, yes, they are eligible. But the practical reality is that I can't imagine that actually the Cabarrus-Rowan or Gaston, Cleveland, Lincoln MPO coming in and wanting to spend dollars outside their planning area.
Okay, sorry, very technical, just
Oh,
curious.
no,
Thank you.
No, I appreciate it.
I guess I'm gonna just make a statement, to follow up on that. I mean, is that something you can address in the memorandum of agreement? Just like a clause saying, get your hands out of our pockets or something?
We can look into that, sure.
I mean, if the federal highway says, yeah, that's legitimate.
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and I was unaware of the Winston-Salem example, so that's helpful. I'll raise it with Loretta Barron and get her opinion on it. And if it is an issue, then perhaps the agreement needs to incorporate that. And can we use that wording?
Well, I was thinking of something else that may not be appropriate, so, but yes, you can use that wording.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
All right.
Okay,
Thank you, Bob.
all right, thank you.
So moving into our other reports, as typical, you have your Division 10 and 12 project updates that were included in your agenda packet. Transportation Planning Division also included their newsletter in that packet. And then Anil and Sean are with us today if you have any questions for them. Does Roger have an update other than what I said?
No, most of the info is in the packet. You'll also find some grant deadlines and stuff like that that Alex may want to expand on if he wants to, but there's some other USDOT reports and interactive maps and stuff like that, data like that that you guys may be interested in. So all that is in the agenda packet though. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex?
Thank you. Just a couple quick updates that I've just repeating the same things that I've spoken about in the last meeting, I believe. One is the multimodal planning grant program. The deadline for that is coming up at the end of March on the 25th. So if your municipality is interested in applying for a standalone bicycle or pedestrian plan, or a joint bike ped plan, or we have a new plan called a multimodal plan, which incorporates transit. So if you have fixed route transit and you'd like that to be included in the planning process, you'd be eligible for that. And so I know that a lot of communities have recently done that. And also, if you have a plan already existing on the books, but it's 5 years of age or older, you're also eligible to apply. So if you're looking to just blow the dust off of an old plan and bring some new life into it, then please, I do encourage you to apply for that. The other thing that we have open in terms of grant opportunities is our Transportation Demand Management Grant. Central Ina is currently one of the recipients of that grant, as well as the city of Charlotte. And the Central Ina plan, well, I'm hoping that you have heard about the planning work that's been going on there or been actively involved in that. But they receive money from us to do an entire, region-wide transportation demand management plan. So hopefully you've had an opportunity to are aware of it or have been involved with the creation of that plan. We anticipate that ending sometime this year, and then they're moving forward with pilot programs and whatnot. So I'm excited about that. So those are my updates for today. Thank you. Yes.
Question. This is Dave Campbell, Charlotte DOT. Thanks for giving me some more information on that grant program. As I understand it, 190,000 is the max to fund a bike plan update, the multimodal plan, which means that the jurisdiction would contribute half and the grant program would contribute half of that. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So my question is, having come from California where I know things are more expensive, like there they would start with like $500,000 to do a bike plan or a bike ped plan and go up from there. And so is this the same thing? There's things are cheaper in Carolina to do these plans, or are these plans more focused than I'm thinking they are? Any perspective there on why the difference in cost?
I really couldn't compare it to any other, kind of similar kind of program outside of the state. We do have, it's done kind of internally through our on-call consulting firm. So it's usually, started pretty early and, it's usually contracted within a handful of months as opposed to, 6 months or something like that. And they usually move at a pretty rapid pace. I can say, the only thing I can say other than that, I don't know about a comparison, is that, we're working with 2 larger cities in this go around that's starting now, City of Raleigh and City of Fayetteville. Both applied in 2022, 2023, then starting in 2024. And they've also, like Raleigh was really interested in doing some additional stuff. So they kind of subcontracted for additional funds to do additional things. So, I suppose it's possible that, if the city of Charlotte were to apply and get the max awarding, but didn't feel like, all the needs that they were interested in were being met by the scope of services that, we work with you to come up with, and the consulting firm, that, the city could, talk to the consultant about doing additional work for additional fees. So hopefully that gets towards what you were asking. I'm not sure if that answers it directly, though.
So how much is Raleigh spending?
I have no idea, but I can get you that information.
Okay, thanks.
Any more questions? All right, thank you, Alex.
Thank
you. Warren, you don't have anything for us today, but welcome. Jennifer is not here, but Travis will provide an update for her.
Thank you. The PSC update is just a reminder about the 2024 spring call has officially opened. And so this is for existing CRTPO discretionary grant funded projects. 2 dates to keep in mind is that a mandatory pre-submittal meeting must be set by April 24th, 2024. And then all applications are due by 5 p.m. on April 30th, 2024. Again, for more information, it's available on our website, crtpo.org. And so again, spring shortfall call is now open.
All right, thank you. Curtis.
I've got no major work group updates, but we do have a couple grants. Alex just mentioned the DOT's multimodal plan grant application coming up a few moments ago. Also, US DOT's Safe Streets for All, NOFA was out. The first application deadline for that, for the planning and demonstration grants, is April 4th. Then they've got the implementation grant is coming up on, I want to say May 16th. So those dates are coming up. They also have a webinar this afternoon during Biped Work Group, so, make a choice. On our Biped Work Group agenda, we do have that one item to discuss transitioning to our TDI, or to DOT's TDI, as a resource for our active transportation criteria. So we'll discuss that and hopefully get that wrapped up this afternoon. Feel free to join us. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Curtis. All right, Bob, nothing for you. Last but not least, Travis. Already did it?
Yeah, that was.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, thank you. With that, I'll pause for a minute, see if anybody else has anything for the good of the order, since we're all here together. All right, hearing silence, as always, thank you for your time and participation in the work that we do and planning for transportation in this region. With that, we have completed all items on our agenda and we are adjourned.